What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be jumping into Lightroom again and going over another Lightroom tutorial. Today we're going to be focusing on color and color grading your photos and going for a specific look. So the seasons are changing right now. We're getting into fall. All the leaves are changing. We're getting all those fall colors. Anytime it's the change of the season, I like to kind of change the style of the way I edit my photos just so I'm not doing the same thing over and over and over again. I like to experiment with different styles and different coloring, and that's what we're going to do today, going for that fall look. So let's go ahead and jump into Lightroom and get started. Alright, let's grab this photo here. First thing I notice, background is way too bright. We're going to bring down the highlights and bring up the shadows. Just going to go ahead and get my base edit done real quick, and then we'll jump into the colors. Okay, so like normal, what I've done is even out the exposure, did a little adjustment brush on the cars to highlight them. Alright, so I've got my basic edit done, and the first thing I've gone ahead and done as far as the color is I've taken the temperature slider and cranked that towards the warm side since we're going for those fall colors. Now what I'm going to do is come down to these hue, saturation, and luminance sliders, and we want to go to the hue. And I'm going to take the green, because we have a lot of green in the trees back here, and I want to take this and move it more towards the yellow. I'm going to take the yellows, put them a little more towards the orange, and then the orange more towards the red, just slightly. Then I'll up the saturation on all three of those a little bit. I'm going to come down to the split toning, and I'm going to take the shadows and choose somewhere in like the yellows and the oranges. And add some of that. And on this one I'm also going to do it in the highlights. And that's just going to make the whole photo a bit more orange and yellow and kind of have those warm fall colors. So now you can see the before and the after. Pretty big difference. So let's go take another photo and see what we can do. This one might be a bit more of a challenge since it was shot a little bit earlier in the year before the leaves had started changing, but let's see what we can do with it anyways. Take these greens, move them to the yellows, and that makes a pretty big difference. I think we should be able to change this one however we want. We're going to do the split toning again. Split toning can be a very powerful tool for changing the color. So if we look at the side by side, that's a huge difference. We basically took all the greens and the cool colors from the photo on the left and made them into warmer colors, yellows, oranges. Now another way you can manipulate the colors of a photo is by using the tone curve. And there's a few different things that you can do. There's the standard RGB channel, which is going to affect all the colors in the photos, but you also have the individual red, green, and blue channels. So if we select the red, and we make 3 points across it like we normally would. And let's just see what happens when we grab the shadows here and start playing with that. So you see if you move it up, it's going to make all the shadows more red, and if you move it down, it's going to move it to the other side, which is going to be the cooler side, the greens and the blues. So this is a way that you can really ramp up the colors of a photo. If I move the shadows more towards the red side and then I grab these mid-tones and pull them down to the cooler side, now we all kind of have like the teal and orange look. And again, you can see the side by side. Basically when you're doing this, you want to decide what type of colors you want to have in the photo, and then basically you can take out the ones you don't want by using the HSL sliders and taking the saturation of the colors you don't want and dropping them all the way out. Also by taking the hue and pushing the colors more towards the color that you want, like we did with the greens, yellow, and oranges here, move them more towards the warmer colors. So basically there are 3 main tools that I use when playing with the colors of a photo. That's going to be the tone curve, the HSL sliders, and the split toning. So let's take a look at one more photo and focus on these 3 tools. Alright, so in this photo here you can see we've already got some fall leaves on the ground here. This should be a good one. I'm going to take my white balance, go ahead and push that towards the warmer side. Alright, so let's focus on the HSL sliders first. I'm going to take my greens, move them to the yellows to the orange a little bit, and orange more towards the red. Now you can only use this panel if you want to, You could only do the split toning or the tone curve, or you can use a combination of all three. It just depends kind of on how far you want to go and what tool you are most comfortable with. So you could stop right here on this photo. I think this looks pretty good. You can see the before and the after, big difference. Much more warmer colors all the way across the board. Really has that fall vibe to it. But just for demonstration's sake, let's keep going here and play with some of these other two tools. Next, I'm gonna go to the split toning and make the shadows and the highlights a bit warmer. This is a bit more of a subtle change, but it does affect it. Don't want to go too much on this. You can go too much too fast pretty easily. You can see it looks good right around there. And I don't so much on this photo like how it's coming out when I try and bump the tone curve on this one. But if you really wanted to go over the top, you could, but I'm probably not going to on this one. But you can see how big of a difference it makes when you kind of drag these points around. Let's check the final before and after. You can see how all the warm colors pop a lot more on this side. Got a more consistent look all the way across the board with all the colors. And you can tell it just has that fall vibe. So I hope you enjoyed that look into how I color grade my photos in Lightroom and go for specific looks. This is something I like to change up every time the seasons change, just so I'm not doing the same editing style over and over. Summer and fall, I like to have my photos pretty saturated and obviously have more of those warmer colors in fall. And then as we move into winter, most of the time I like to do more of a gritty, moody look, and the photos tend to be a lot more desaturated and a lot more cooler colors, so it's going to be more on the blue side, just so they feel cold. And then as we move into spring, they usually tend to be a lot more brighter, still on the cool side, and then usually bringing back in a little more saturation. This is just something that I like to do to try and keep my skills sharp and experiment with different looks. So I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. But for now, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.